so get your pattern out. We'll start. You'll need to have your stitch marker ready because we're going to mark the even number side. So all those color changes you see going forward in the color block sections are going to happen on the even row side. So we always want to make sure we know where we're at. All right, so I'm going to just chain a few, show you how to work your stitch. And your stitch count will be important because that's where we put in our color changes. Okay, so I've chained a few. Now I'm going to skip the first chain from hook and work a single crochet. Then I'm going to go back into that same stitch, pull up a loop, then go into the next stitch, pull up a loop again, yarn over, pull through all three. Go into that same stitch I just worked, pull up a loop, before going into the next stitch, pull up a loop again, yarn over, pull through all three. And you'll just do that to the end of the row. Pull the loop in that same stitch, then pull through all three. Just keep working your stitch like that. So this is row 1. Last stitch, finish. Chain 1, turn, and do the same thing again. Single crochet in the first, this is row 2, go into the same stitch, pull up a loop before going into stitch number 2. Right over, pull through all. Now I'm going to mark this side because this is an even row side. Just put that marker somewhere in a stitch, front of a stitch, just so you know where it is. And as I work, I move it up because sometimes, especially working with big pieces like this, larger blankets, your stitch marker can kind of get lost. It's still there, but it can kind of feel or look like it's lost. So I move it every section or two, color block section or two, into that same stitch, pull up the loop before going into the next. All right, work to the end, and then I want to point something out at the end of the row just to make sure that you keep your straight edges, because this blanket, you have the option of putting a border on, and we'll talk about that before we move to the next section. Let's finish this row first. Now when you get to the end of the row, that little turn stitch there, it's going to look small and like maybe it's not part of your project, but it is. So make sure you don't miss it. Always get that last stitch. And because it starts with just a single crochet, it's going to look smaller rather than these stitches that have more yarn in them. All right, and our texture is starting to develop. Chain 1, turn. Let's do another row and then we'll talk about the border. So single crochet in the first, this is row 3. Still, we're working, everything's the same. All the rows are the same. Pull up that loop before you go into stitch number 2. Finish, there's stitch number 2. Okay, so let's talk about the border situation. This is designed to not need a border. It's meant to be a very modern, borderless blanket. The stitch has a straight edge, just the nature of the stitch. It has a good bit of texture, and that's just how I want it. The color block makes a lot of statement, and a border will take away from that. Now, I know some of you you have to have a border. That's just the way it is. You have to have a border. That's fine. Now keep in mind, because I've designed this to use up the entire skein of yarn, you're not going to have a whole lot left to make borders. And for this section, for instance, it's just one small area because one skein makes about this much for the length of the blanket. So you need about a yard for each side. Now the pink marshmallow color goes way up, almost the full length of the blanket. You're going to need multiple yards, but you should have enough of that yarn left. So keep that in mind. If you're coming to the end of your row and you're down to the littlest nub of yarn, you're not going to be able to finish that row. You'll have to stop and reserve, hold back some of the yarn if you have not bought additional yarn for making pillows, the matching pillows. And if you have to stop a row short, and I'm going to mention this probably more than once while working this, it's fine. We're going to make it work. I don't want you to be stressing about running out of yarn, not finishing a row, all of that. Just stop the row where you have to, okay? This is not stressful. I don't want you having extra yarn laying around, having to buy, spend extra money. I want this to be, a fun project for us with minimal waste at the end, okay? So we're just going to work a simple, clean single crochet. That's it. I'm going down to a 6mm for this because that larger hook we've been using for this stitch is going to just look a little, it's not going to look smooth and easy. All right, so I was just mentioning, if you have to stop short, that's fine. We will always be changing our colors. Go back to that even number row side and start your next color section, color block. And if you feel anxious or tripped up during any of this, email me. Okay, I will hold your hand through this. This is not difficult, but just keep in mind, always start your color block changes on the even row side. Because while the sides look the same for the most part, there's a little bit of a change with this stitch working on the opposite side. And let me turn this blanket over and show you what that's going to look like. Oh, see here, I'm already getting a little bit short. I have more of this yarn, so it's fine. You see that gives a little bit of a cleaner edge. If you want that look, that's fine. Okay, so the opposite side. So it's got this little bit, almost like a patchwork look. I like it though, when you're bringing in your other colors. So all of the odd row sides are going to look like this, and then the even row will look just seamless like this. So there's no stitching, it's just changing the color in the row at specific points in the pattern. And you see here up in the green sections, they're shorter, solid sections again. All right, so I've worked the 21 rows of the Winterberry color, and it's time to bring in the next color row, and this next color row is where we're going to be using two colors. So I have, let's see, I finished the row, but I'm going to pull out the last stitch so that I can bring in the cranberry color and introduce it here at the Winterberry color. So I'll go in, pull up the loop for a stitch, go into the last one, pull up, bring in my next color, leaving a long enough tail to weave in. Oops, I didn't pull that all the way through. Here we go. Pull this tight, and then I'll cut this one because I don't need any more strands hanging. Do my chain one and turn. And then when you turn, you should see your stitch marker that you place to remind you you're on the even number of sides. So this will be row 22. Now I have another stitch marker out because just to keep this simple, Most of the stitches of row 22 will be this color, but the last 15 stitches will be the marshmallow pink color. So I'm just going to count the last 15 stitches and mark them. Okay, so that's 15th from the end, and then this whole section is all worked the same. So your first stitches up to that stitch marker will be with the cranberry color, and then your last stitches will be the marshmallow pink color. So you'll just keep working the same stitch that you've been working, single crochet in the first, and then work your linked stitches for every stitch after that. And then I think it starts to get fun when you start doing the color work. It's less monotonous. And then using that stitch marker ahead keeps it easy. So you're not having to count. All right, so I'm coming up to my stitch marker, which indicates my last 15 stitches. So I will get my next color ready to go. Alright, so go into the first stitch, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, the 15th stitch, put my hook in there. Now don't cut your yarn because you're going to come back and reattach this very quickly. Okay. Pull this through. Oops. Actually, I'll just take this out. I don't need it here anymore. Into the second loop, pull up a loop. Now I bring it forward so that it's at the back when I come back around to use it. Pull this color through, pull this snug. And then keep working, keep working, and finish the row. All right, so I'm on row 23 where I've just been working the marshmallow pink color back across. So the first 15 stitches are this color. There's my 15th stitch. Bring my yarn forward. Make sure that I don't have them twisted or that's going to get annoying real fast. And then because I pulled this forward on the last round, it's ready for me in the back. So I'll bring it up and finish that stitch. Move this to the side and then keep working. So you'll repeat rows 22, which is this row that came this way, and then now I'm on 23. 13 times. So this section is going to be a little bit wider than that first Winterberry section.